Bolt fam, what is good? Your boys are back. Chargers Powder Hour is back after a couple weeks hiatus. Colin Appel, Miles Raruka here. How are you doing, man? It's been a few weeks since we've caught up.
Dude, I'm to the point in the off season. I just want football. That's all that I really want. I want college. I've been watching, USFL as of lately just to have some sort of football in my life. But man, I've been doing good. I've been in the process of moving houses, just started a new job. It's summertime, been golfing a lot. Life is good. So how have you been, my man?
Been keeping busy, man. It's I know we were just chatting before we hopped on here, but yeah, life is busy. Work, you're moving, I'm in the process of moving as well, so been keeping busy with that. And yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I'm ready for football to be here in some capacity. So it is nice to have, USFL, a little bit of XFL. I think that just got over a couple weeks ago, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. So yeah, that's something to fill the void. This time of year, I'm usually full swing in baseball, but yeah, man, I'm just it's that part of the summer where OTAs are kind of finishing up. We'll get into that here. That's going to be one of the main things we talk about today. But yeah, the off season is officially wrapping up, and here in about a week or so, the players and the team will break for a good month, and then we'll be back in July for training camp and get this ball rolling. So this is kind of the part of the year where it just kind of seems to fly by for me in the off season. Like it does and it doesn't, just because you are so thirsty for football, but at the same time, it's summer, so there's all sorts of things to distract you from the void of not having football. But no, I've been good, man. I'm excited to catch up, talk about what's been going on in the Chargers universe, just with OTAs and mini camp and all that stuff. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it here. But before we jump into it, I gotta ask you, what you drinking, and is it anything different than what you're normally sipping on?
It is actually. So today I'm drinking just a nice Nebraska. I think these are only in Nebraska, as the company's only in Nebraska. It's called Acres Ale.
Mm.
It's our John Deere company that we have here in Nebraska. My whole family's big John Deere people. We've all worked. I mean, I've worked there for some summers. My dad works at a John Deere, cousin, uncle, like big John Deere family. So I always get some Acres Ale on deck. It's pretty good. It reminds me. It's just a light beer. It reminds me of like your typical Bush Light, Miller Light, anything like that. Even get a can crack for you guys.
Oh, baby, blessing us with a can
There we
crack too.
go. There we go. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm drinking. I figured, it's something that I guarantee you none of you guys have had. Well, unless we have some Nebraska listeners, but other than that, yeah, that's what I got going today. How about you?
Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm surprised it's not a Coors Light, a Bush Light, or a Miller Light. So
My
that's hey,
uh
we're
my fridge is normal beer empty right now. I just got these bad boys sitting in there. So
good stuff. I myself am mixing it up a little bit, trying to be better about that. I got a good old fashioned Kugel summer shandy.
hell yeah, dude.
It's that time of year. I like this brewing company, Kugel. They have a couple good brews, seasonal brews, fall, springtime, wintertime, but nothing beats the summer shandy. I've had the variety pack a few times and just tried some different brews that they have, but yeah, summer shandy,
It's not the same.
it just feels like you should be out on a lake somewhere near the water, drinking your hand, just enjoying the summertime. So
Or perhaps in a golf cart, but
yeah, of course. Yeah, golf course. I mean, that's honestly where I drink a lot of them as well, just because every course out here seems to carry them. So those are hard to turn down in the course as well. But yeah, man, that's what I'm sipping on. I can't give you a can crack because it's out of a bottle, but I will give you a little sippy here.
yeah, I did have my fair share of line and Kugels this past week, and Colin and I were just talking. We each played about 36 holes of golf this last weekend. So, we've been grinding. We've been out there just try to improve our game. And like you mentioned, just trying to get through this football hiatus that we're going through right now.
trying to get through it. We will get through it. It'll be here before we know it. Like I just mentioned a little bit ago, Chargers just finished up their second week of OTAs this last week, and they're now on their third and final week before it turns into mandatory minicamp, and then they get their, I guess, summer vacation, if you want to call it, where they're off for about a month, and then they come back, and it is go time. It's training camp. So hey man, let's dive into it. There's been a lot that's happened in the last couple of weeks since we haven't recorded. I think the last time we recorded was just right after the draft, I want to say, not too far after the draft. So there's definitely been some things that have happened in the Chargers world, but nothing too crazy. But definitely some things that I want to get to, and I'm excited to kind of get your opinion on. And we haven't talked about any of this ourselves either, so we'll have plenty to talk about today. So uh, kicking it off before we jump into OTAs, just a couple big headlines over the last 2 weeks or so. I think the biggest one, really probably since the draft, is that the Chargers and Austin Ekeler agree, not on an extension, but just the fact that he's going to be riding out this last year of his contract. The Chargers added 1.75 million in incentives to the end of his contract, which usually I'm not a huge incentive guy. I mean, it's they're great to have, but I feel like for some players, like some of them are so steep that it's just better to get things guaranteed or you know kind of go that route. But with a player like Austin Eckler, I feel like he's probably going to hit, and I don't know the incentive specifically, but he's probably going to hit them just based on his production over the last couple of years. I mean, whether it's touchdowns, receptions, uh, playoff incentives, like whatever it is. I mean, I could probably go and dive into it real quick, but it just feels like that's probably an extra 1.75 million that he's going to get. Like, it would not surprise me if he collects all of, or if not most of that. So that is good news. That means we have Austin Eckler back for another year. We get to see him in the Kellen Moore offense for at least a year. Um, Not sure what his future beyond that will hold, but super excited to have him back. What were your instant thoughts and reactions to seeing that headline pop up about a week or so ago?
Yeah, I think it's a total win-win for Austin and the organization, especially us as fans, to be able to have that kind of presence on the field for at least one more year. I'm just really kind of happy that they got through it. I know that long-term extension is really what Austin, especially, was striving for, but we know that we need to change. We need to change something up in the run game, especially when we get into these late fourth quarters and we just can't quite finish the game out on the ground. So give me another year of Austin Eckler, and then I would assume that our long-term backfield issues will be answered next offseason. That is, unless, let's say, that Austin Eckler goes absolutely nuclear and breaks like LT's touchdown record this year, something
Yeah.
like that. I really think this is going to be Austin's last season as a Charger. It's been really just incredible to see him come up as an undrafted guy out of Western Colorado and to see the kind of player that he is now, and especially with how well he deals with like fans and how much like he interacts with fantasy football owners, stuff like that. It's just really cool to see. So yeah, I'm really happy they got that deal done. That didn't seem like the Chargers really gave up too much, like you mentioned, incentives. So as long as he balls out on the field like he should, then he's going to earn that money, which for me sounds like a pretty good deal. So yeah, I'm happy they were able to get something going, and there isn't any turmoil within that situation. Not like we ever really thought that there was, but just to avoid that completely is nice. So that's kind of my takeaways on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was an interesting situation from the jump. I mean, like you mentioned, it doesn't really sound like there was a lot of turmoil or bad blood between the two sides. The Chargers, I think, did a good job, just as an organization throughout the whole thing, navigating it. Brandon Staley, uh, a number of times vocalized his support for Austin, and that he wanted him here, wanted him back, and yeah. So I mean, you kind of answer my follow up question to that, but and I know the short answer would be yes. I mean, a player with that production, everyone would like to see him back long term, but I think the biggest thing standing in that way is the dollar figures that Austin Eckler is wanting. Do you see any sort of compromise between the two sides? I mean, maybe he doesn't get. Uh, I mean, he definitely shouldn't get top of the market money. Maybe not even what they offered Melvin Gordon a few years ago. But do you see any sort of compromise between Ekeler and the Chargers on getting, let's just say, like a 2 or 3 year extension done this season or next offseason?
Yeah, I still think that can definitely happen, especially if he continues to produce what we've seen him do, especially in the last few years. But I just think that it's known within this organization that running the ball, we need more of a physical downhill runner. And with how versatile Austin Ekeler is, it's awesome to have him out on the field. And obviously, this his stats in the box show for itself. But I don't think he's the long term answer. I would love if maybe we could get a 2 or 3 year deal done, but just with the production that he's put out, I just think for a guy that's almost 30 years old, I don't think that it would be worth it to especially give him the kind of money he wants, let alone what Melvin Gordon wanted, something along those lines for a guy that's getting up there in age. So
Yeah, I know. I think I would have to agree with you mostly on the sense of nearing his age 30 season, and as productive. I mean, it's such an interesting like situation because as productive as he's been on the field, you still would like to have more of a running presence in your backfield. And one of the things I hope the Chargers do this season is really start to implement those guys behind them. We kind of saw it a little bit last year. Joshua Kelly had a huge resurgence. I mean, I think at this time last year, most people were probably leaving him for dead. Um, and then he comes back. He's healthy. He looks like a new runner. He's running downhill, with some authority, and had a nice season. So I hope we see more Joshua Kelly. I also hope we see a lot more Isaiah Spiller. And I think utilizing those 2 and 3 guys and getting them more comfortable, getting them in a rhythm isn't not only going to help you down the stretch this season, but also going into like it's going to make decisions easier going into next offseason. If Isaiah Spiller and Joshua Kelly are the best, 2 and 3 backs in the league, or it's just this kind of running back by committee, but then you also have Austin Eckler balling out and doing what he does. So I would just like to see more opportunities given those guys, their way, and hopefully set up this running back room decently for the next couple of seasons. But yeah, I mean, all in all, happy to see Eckler back for another year. I think you're right. I think this is it. This is the final curtain call for Austin Eckler and the Chargers
farewell
uniform.
tour.
Farewell tour, mainly because I think if it does come down to him in free agency next year, somebody's going to bid on him stupid money. Whether it's probably like a contending team or a team that's trying to be contenders. Someone's going to give him a bag, I think. And so that probably leaves the Chargers being like, all right, we'll go our separate ways, and we'll go find the next great running back for this franchise. So moving on though from the Austin Eckler situation, other big things that have happened since we've recorded. Again, OTAs started. OTAs were not in session last time we recorded, so again, we're 2 weeks in now. It should be noted that the first week OTAs, I think, were this is just something that I noticed reading and catching up on OTAs. The first week of OTAs, very, very good attendance for the Chargers. And we saw guys like Justin Herbert out there. I believe we saw Corey Linsley, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, some of those faces. And attendance kind of dropped a little bit this last week, with a lot of guys, nursing some injuries, or just whether that's from last season and just trying to get right. Justin Herbert missed because of a personal matter, so it was not contract or football related. So that was good to see. But we also saw guys like Austin Johnson, J.C. Jackson, Tito Ogbania still nursing, or rehabbing some of their injuries when it was the portion that was open to the media. So injured players who did not fully participate in practice. Wide receiver Joshua Palmer. I didn't even know he was injured. Did you know he was injured?
It's probably just something very minor, but
Sure. Wide receiver Jalen Guyton, obviously coming off that ACL. Wide receiver Darius Davis, the rookie out of TCU. Linebacker Eamon Ogbogbaminga. linebacker Tyreek Maddox-Williams, running back Tyler Huseman, and linebacker Nathan East. So a couple guys I've never heard of, a couple guys that could be very important to this roster. But yeah, I think just because the time of year it is, you know, no real reason to panic, especially if they're not very specific. And sounds like they're just kind of taking it easy and nursing some stuff up. But yeah, so good attendance week 1, which is what you always like to see. And then now Chargers are rolling into week 3 of OTAs, the final week before it turns into mandatory minicamp, and we should see everybody there. I think, I mean, this is kind of the time of year where you know next week at this time, I think there's going to be a lot more concern about people who don't show up, because that means people are probably holding out, or for some reason, whether it's contract issues or mainly contract issues. But um, just a side question here: do you anticipate anyone on that list or anyone on this roster at all holding out or holding in? We saw Derwin James last year holding in, basically being there every day, but not willing to strap up the helmet and participate in practice until he got his contract issues figured out.
Yeah, nobody really comes off the top of my head. Obviously, Austin Ekeler would be the one that would, but with this new deal that we just got done talking about, I think that that's out of the picture now. So, I mean, I'm definitely not expecting a guy like Justin Herbert who's going to get a massive contract. Justin's just excited to be there on his rookie deal, let alone when
Yeah.
he's going to get this massive deal. So, wouldn't expect that out of him whatsoever. But no, there's really nobody that comes to mind right now that really feels massively due for a contract who's going into their last year necessarily that I could really see holding out.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I mean, there could always be a surprise guy, but as of right now, I don't see it. And just going back to Justin Herbert for a sec, I did read today that, well, it was a article that Popper came out with a couple days ago, but Justin Herbert is planning to get work back into 7-on-7s this week 3 of OTAs, which would be his first live football activity since all the the shoulder surgery and all that stuff in the off season. So that's exciting, for him to get back on the field. He's been throwing to guys, but as far as like live participation, this should be his first time back, in live 7-on-7. So that's a good sign. He seems to be right on track. And God, I cannot get over just. I was thinking about this the other day, how excited I am to see a fully healthy Justin Herbert with a new offensive coordinator and some new weapons going into this year. It's going to be a big refresher, just based off of a large majority of the season last year. He was banged up, or we were dealing with Joe Lombardi issues, or whatever it was. I just can't wait to see him back out in the field, fully healthy, and just letting it rip.
Dude, no kidding. I think that's my storyline I'm most looking forward to week 1 is just what is our king gonna look like out there on the field? What's our fearless leader gonna look like with with no more no OC excuses, no banged up receiver room excuses. Now we got a new receiver that he gets to throw to, maybe a few new receivers that he gets to throw to. So yeah, that's something that I'm definitely very, very excited for. I've been seeing some of the reels lately of Quentin Johnston at OTAs just making ridiculous catches. I know
Insane.
Derwin James said something earlier today about that he's the real deal. And I feel like if somebody like Derwin James can point that out, then I'll take his word for it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm extremely excited to see. It's just especially week 1 when that should have everyone healthy and no excuses. We're gonna go out there, weapons galore, and see what we can do.
Yeah, Quentin Johnson has gotten a lot of praise pretty much since he's walked into the building, which is exactly what you want to see and hear out of people in the building after a draft pick, gets there. I mean, we were all pretty hyped on draft night when his name got called, but it's even more positive to see that he's, kind of got introduced and he's gelled pretty quickly and is looking good out in the field. Um, Back to Justin Herbert for just one more second, because one thing I am looking at and I'm paying attention to, especially going into year 4 for Justin. Um, over the summer, no, I guess not over the summer, but a couple weeks ago, uh, Keenan Allen was on. Was it First Things First or no? What's the one with the one that we hate with Acho and Joy Taylor and all those guys?
Do we hate that?
I mean, if you're a Chargers fan, you definitely don't like Acho or Joy
Oh
Taylor
well.
because
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No. First take. No. Yeah.
no, not
The
First
first take.
Take. It's the one on. It's on Fox. I don't. I can't.
Indispute. No, it's not undisputed.
No, I don't even know what it is, but it's the one that
Some
Acho is
the
using as a
bum ass.
platform
Yeah.
to.
The bum ass Acho,
Yeah.
whatever show he's on, the Emmanuel
So
Acho show.
Keenan Allen went on there, and I thought I mean, usually, I mean, I didn't watch a whole lot of his interview on there, and just because of the show that it is, I typically tend to just not listen to that crap. But he said something that kind of went a little viral on Twitter and was being talked about a little bit, and especially amongst Chargers Twitter and Chargers fans. He said something along the lines of, all Justin really has to do, all that there's really left for him to do as a professional quarterback is really just take full charge and take full ownership and be like, hey, this is my fucking offense. Like, you know, we were so blessed and fortunate for 17 years to see Philip Rivers kind of be like the second coach out there. You need a quarterback as talented as Justin Herbert is, as special as he is, as great as his, core around him is. You have to have that dog in you to just be like, no, like I got this. I'm audibling out of this shit because clearly I'm reading the defense and this ain't gonna work. Like, I love that he puts a lot of trust in his coaches and his teammates. That's never a bad thing. But I'm waiting for him to kind of just hit that next gear and be like, hey, I'm on year 4. I'm a senior now. I'm a vet. If this was college, I'd be a senior and this would be my team. So, yeah, like same thing, man. Take over that huddle. You know, it's the Justin Herbert show, and it should be like face of the franchise. There's no one else it should be other than him. So, um, with Keenan going on national TV and saying that, I was like, oh, I mean that checks out. It's very Justin Herbert to just be the humblest guy in the room, always giving credit to others, which you love to see. But at some point, you hope he just has a little bit more of that dog in him, I guess, to just take over and be like, nah, we're doing this my way. It's my team, just like Philip Rivers would have done. Like, if Anthony Lynn would have called something that Phil didn't like, he wasn't gonna fucking run that. Like,
Yeah.
come on, like he's running the show out there. He's the second coach out on the field, getting everybody in their spots, and he just knows everything, um, like the back of his hand. So that's one thing I hope that Justin Herbert, I hope he can take that next step into year 4 and have a little bit more moxie when it comes to that stuff. But I guess real quick, what are your thoughts on that?
I really liked what Keenan said, just because I think that's just him stating it from a football mind. He knows. And then he's definitely not taking a shot at Justin's leadership skills. He's mostly just taking a
Right.
shot at the fact, like, he's Justin is good enough to know, like, all right, well, this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work. I'm gonna change to this. Like he reads the feel and plays at a high enough level to have that kind of ability to have those reins of that offense, if you will. So I just think it's takeover time, straight up for Justin
Yes.
Herbert. This is his
Yeah.
team. This is his offense to run. Let him do it.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. That's what I would like to see more of this year, and hopefully we do, and hopefully we see him take that next step in that department. And because, dude, if he does, like, he's a top 3 quarterback, no doubt about it. I mean, I think he's a top 4 quarterback as it stands right now. But if he can get, I think that's the one thing that separates him right now between guys like Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. Because I don't think anyone is or will be on Mahomes' level while he's playing. I mean, it's not impossible. Someone could get up to that level, but that means you have to win at the rate that Mahomes wins at, and that's just insanely hard to do. But for those other guys, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, I think that's the one thing that they have that Justin Herbert doesn't. And I would even go on to say like Justin Herbert has certain things that they don't have. So it's kind of give or take, but I think Joe Burrow is just one of the greatest examples of that. Like, I mean, even as a rookie or second year guy to come in and just already pretty much command and run that huddle and be like, no, this is my team. We're doing that. If we're gonna go down, it's gonna be because of me, and I take full ownership of that.
Yeah, I think it's been fully proven, especially in the Bengals case, that bad or decent coaching can be overlooked when you have a guy like Joe Burrow. Not that Zach Taylor's obviously he's not a horrible coach in the league, but you don't see him in top 10 talks. Or I know a lot of Bengals fans that aren't huge fans of Zach Taylor, but you can get away with mediocre play calling. You can get away with some bad, late game decisions or whatnot if your quarterback is the one that's running the team. And that's exactly the case for the Bengals. And hopefully that'll be the case for the Chargers going forward.
Yeah, I hope so. I would love to see him take that next step. So, um, let's transition here. We talked about Justin for the last few minutes or so, but another big thing that I'm really excited for this year. Obviously, it was one of the biggest splashes of the offseason for the Chargers, but offensive coordinator Kellen Moore and his new offense and just exactly what that's going to look like, you know, from week one onward. I there was something in this Daniel Popper article that I thought was pretty interesting, and let me find it here real quick. It was Keenan Allen actually that said there are a lot of similarities between Kellen Moore's offense and Joe Lombardi's offense, but that Moore is also implementing different terminology, which is pretty common amongst different minds. It's a lot of it's pretty similar stuff, but there's just different ways to arrive there. So different terminology and some different techniques to get it done. But the main thing that Keenan was saying was that he's just going to be a more aggressive play caller, and I love that. I think too many times last year or over the last 2 years even like we were just not aggressive enough on offense, mainly in the second half. We kind of reverted to this 2018, 2019 version of the Chargers that was just playing not to lose in the second half and then not to go for the win, not to go for the kill. Um, so I'm excited about what Kellen Moore is going to bring to this offense. And another thing that I wanted to throw out there, this is from Rashawn Slater, was just asked, what have you noticed has been the biggest change in offenses? And he said it's just it's simplification. Like, Moore is keeping things very simple. And this is a quote from Rashawn Slater. You'd be surprised how much can change in the run game whenever certain rules are rearranged, or just the coaching points change a little bit. I think that is really going to allow us to play fast and give us a chance to make explosive plays. Your thoughts on that, my sir?
I think, yeah, that's it's kind of a loaded question, really. But I just think that we've done such a good job. Well, yeah, at this point, I think a lot of our offensive play calling is one about keeping dudes healthy, and two, knowing when to just put your foot on the team's neck and saying you're done. Like
Yeah, you're
when are we
done.
gonna
You're done.
you're done. You're done. When are we gonna see the Chargers just like run up the score on someone and just beat the shit out of somebody? It feels like there's always like one game a year that we pretty much dismantle someone, but like we don't do it consistently enough against bad defenses or maybe other teams poor offenses that we can't even get enough points on the board for our defense to be well rested and get back out there. So really, I think the biggest thing is coming with Kellen Moore is, he was a quarterback at Boise State a lot more recently than Joe Lombardi ever suited up for a team. I can promise you that. I think he's gonna get what he wants out of these weapons. He's gonna know how to utilize certain guys. He's gonna not, send fucking our 6'4" receivers on 3-yard curl routes on 3rd and 7.
Yeah.
He has enough. I think he has enough swag and enough nuts to know like we're gonna take some shots. We have this dude at quarterback with just unlimited arm potential, and I think that he's gonna be the one to get the most out of that. So I'm so excited, man. I'm so excited to see this offense on the field. Ooh.
Yeah. And honestly, I think too a big thing that you have to always keep in mind is, because from I've got some buddies that are Cowboy fans, and they genuinely altogether liked Kellen Moore, but they definitely had some pros and cons to him as well. And look, I think one thing you have to keep in mind is that he is going from a quarterback in Dak Prescott to a quarterback in Justin Herbert. Not that Dak is like a scrub by any means. I mean, I would still label him a top 10 quarterback in this league for sure. So he's not a terrible talent by any means. I mean, he's good. He's a good NFL quarterback, but I think you're going from good to great. And I think some of the pieces around Justin, I think, are going to really open things up. Having an Austin Ekeler on their team is just that's a whole different dynamic that they didn't really have. I mean, they had two good backs in in Dallas, but they didn't have an Austin Ekeler that could be a versatile, receiver, scat back, run it for 6-7 yards on first down type of guy. So that I mean, just that whole dynamic, I'm really excited about, and also, you know, kind of talking about Eckler as well, just how Moore can change this running game into an effective running game. That's been a big topic for this team over the last couple of seasons. And this is actually a quote from Kellen Moore explaining his run game philosophy, and yeah, it goes like this. He says, it's identifying what your primary runs are going to be, your go-to runs. You want your guys playing fast so that they can allow their physical talents to show up. Trying to identify what are going to be our strengths, and then you have to have enough flavors through a season just to be able to present different things to a defense. Protect your primary runs, but you have to certainly identify what's going to be our hang our hat on type of stuff. So I thought that was interesting, because over the last year or so, I think even just identifying what our go-to runs were in that offense was a tough task. And I think last year specifically, like, I don't think we ever figured out what our go-to running game or running style was. I think it changed so much from week to week, and there was just no consistency there. And I really like the fact that, since Kellen Moore has come in, it sounds like he's keeping things super simple and not putting too much into these guys' heads of like, hey, you have this assignment, you have to do this, and then we're gonna, like, and switching it up from week to week. I mean, just like a lot of a lot of other athletes, like these guys they're creatures of habit, and what you practice, what you lay down as the foundation in the summer in training camp is exactly what you're going to rely on in week 15 in the second half when you need a big run. Like, I think, yes, you need to change it up, but I think the Chargers tried to do that too much this last season, and it just never and because of that, the running game never materialized.
Yeah, 100%. We've just been really struggling for years, really, to find our identity in the run game. I think really since we had LT on our team, really, we've been struggling to find that kind of identity. We've seen a lot of flashes. We saw flashes from Melvin Gordon. We saw flashes from guys like Ryan Matthews. I mean, obviously, Austin Eckler's whole career has really been a flash as a player, but not necessarily in the run game. It just feels like that's just really the main aspect of this offense that just keeps coming up short is the run game and getting these consistent, especially these consistent carries on first and second down. It feels like every single time that we call a predictable ass run play on first or second down, it goes for like 2 yards. And I'm just
Yeah.
kind of tired. I'm just kind of tired of seeing that kind of predictability coming out of this offense. And I really think Kellen Moore is going to be the kind of guy that's going to make us so multi-dimensional on that side of the ball that we're going to be a really hard team to be able to predict. And maybe we figure out a way to get some yards on the ground, throw in a play action, and that just opens up your whole arsenal, which is just why running the ball effectively is so important for an offense.
It is, and one thing I would love to see more than honestly on offense, I'm going to be bold here and say this is the number one thing I'd like to see more of on offense this year as a Chargers fan is I would love to see Justin Herbert use his legs more. I mean,
100%. Yep.
my God, dude, it feels like there's been a couple games where he has, whether it's because of the offensive line play and he is just running for his life and making something out of nothing, or they're designed, or it's just kind of like a, you know, think pass first and then take off, use your legs. I mean, we all knew this guy could run coming out of college. I mean, if you didn't watch any of his collegiate games, but you watched his last one in the Rose Bowl victory over Wisconsin, I remember thinking, my God, dude, I don't even know what kind of arm this guy will have, but this guy has some speed, man. Like he's got breakaway speed when it comes to, matching up with guys like linebackers and defensive ends. So, I mean, it just adds another layer of, things you have to prep for as a defense. I mean, if you're a defense, and I think that's what makes Mahomes so dangerous. It's we hear it all the time from opposing defenders. It's like you can never give up on a play with Mahomes because he can hurt you just as bad with his legs as he can with his arm, or he buys himself an extra 2-3 seconds scrambling out of the pocket, and then that's an extra 2 or 3 seconds where you have to cover Travis Kelsey, or you have to cover one of these receivers that it's already hard enough to cover in this league, and when you add on 2 or 3 seconds, that's almost a lifetime for some of these guys. And guys just naturally give up on plays because they think the whistle's blown, or it's a dead play. But next thing you know, some guy gets open and it turns into a 20-30 yard play. And I would just love to see Justin utilize his legs more this season, and I hope that that's a big emphasis with this new offense going forward.
For every single time Justin Herbert slides down short of the first down and doesn't take contact, I will take a tequila shot on this podcast this offseason. So
That's fair. That's fair.
I think that's a fair
Keep track
deal.
of that.
I will do that. I will do that. So anytime he slides and let's say avoids contact to like get a few, maybe not necessarily a few yards, but like, you know what I mean? We've seen it so much in the past. Like it just comes up short of the first down, maybe gets like 2 yards and slides. I'll take a
Yeah.
tequila shot on the podcast for you guys.
Yeah.
So
And I will say, I think last year, I think we saw a little more of that just because of the ribs and, the hit that he took in week 2 when we went to see him at Arrowhead. So I do think a little bit of that was probably just precautionary, not wanting to, get into a collision where it just smokes your ribs. And then next thing you know, like he's done for the season or he's out for 4, 5, 6 weeks. So hopefully that was mainly because of that. But yeah, you are right. I think, but the other thing is too, the more he uses his legs and spends time out of the pocket, like your awareness is only going to get better. You know, he's not a Lamar Jackson, like if your first and second read aren't there, then just take off. I mean, no. Um, but yeah, I think the more he utilizes his legs and is out there, he's going to have more awareness. It's just going to come with the territory, with the reps. So I do think that will get a little bit better. I hope so, and I really do believe it will. But yes, that has been very frustrating because there's been numerous times where he probably could have picked up the first. He should have picked up the first, or move the chains, and he now we're facing a 4th and 1 or a 4th and inches, and it's just one more of those situations that it just makes it tougher on a coach. Like if you're Brandon Staley and you're moving the ball, and then all of a sudden it's a 4th and 1 instead of just a new set of downs, like that's a tough decision. That can ultimately have a huge implication on the entire game. If it's one or two, 4th downs, that's just tough as a coach. And we have the coach, I think, that would pretty much go for it in most instances. But this last season, we definitely saw Staley take his foot off the pedal when it came to 4th down, um, you know, going for it type situations, and that was kind of concerning because he went from like all gung ho into kind of like second guessing himself, not really sure, and it just seems like there are certain times where he goes for it when I personally wouldn't at all.
Browns game.
I would take the 3 points, and there's times where I would go for it, and he's not. So, but again, it just makes it tougher on the coaches when it comes down to that stuff too. So, yeah, I would love to see as part of the new running game with Kellen Moore's offense, I would love to see Justin Herbert be more involved with that as well.
Yeah, I feel like over the last 2 years, Justin Herbert has been like brainwashed by his coaches to not take off. I mean, his first career start against the Chiefs, he literally took just 2 straight shots and flattened some Chiefs defenders, literally on the first 2 drives. And then after his rookie year, it just feels like, he has just been told to not run the ball. And I understand there is that level of protectability that you want to have towards your quarterback, but especially with Rashawn Slater coming back, let's get jiggy with it.
Yeah.
Let's get him going.
Yeah, and like I mean, there's also ways to avoid some of those big hits too. I think again, Patrick Mahomes is a great example of a guy that scrambles quite a bit, and you don't ever really see him take that hit. Like he's so elusive. When we play him and he's running out of the pocket, like as an opposing fan, you just hope someone comes into the frame and just lights him up. You're like, and you think that someone should. I mean, there's points throughout the game where you're like, okay, like he's gonna get smoked at some point. Like it has to. Like he has to. He's getting out of the pocket. Like someone's gonna be waiting there. But again, it just adds another layer to the defense when you're able to do that. And yeah, I really hope we see more of that this season. But
For sure.
moving on to our next topic here, we only have a couple left. But this is the big one that I wanted to talk about because I I was genuinely surprised to see that Dustin Hopkins is back and is in the midst of a huge kicking battle with Cameron Dicker. Um, I think I can't remember which day it was. It was either last week or week one of OTAs where first day that they had him out there, they both went 5 for 5, drained all their field goals from the same yardage markers, and it's I think this is going to be a battle that's going to come down to the wire, and it's probably not going to be decided until the week before week one. And I just wanted to get your I wanted to get your take on it specifically because you are the guy that got a Cameron Dicker jersey for Christmas this last year. Um, so how concerned are you that you got a jersey for a player that might not be on this roster this year?
Not at all, dude. I have a jersey with my lucky number on it that says Dicker on the back. No matter what, that thing is dope. So I will not be unhappy regardless. But yes, I'm rooting for Cameron Dicker to win the job. He's the younger option who I think showed what he really needed to maintain that job on the field last year. Yeah, I mean you can talk about distance. We don't he doesn't have like a Justin Tucker or Sebastian Janikowski type of leg on him. But he really just didn't attempt that many field goals over 50. I would have to pull up the stats,
Yeah.
but I know for a fact most of his range was 35 to like 45,
Mm-hmm.
48 yards or whatever. So I think that's obviously something that you can really prove yourself on in camp is kicking. You just kick the ball through the uprights. It seems pretty self-explanatory. I feel like assessing kickers is pretty self-explanatory. You either make the field goal or you don't.
Yeah.
So I'm obviously I'm on the Dicker the kicker train, rooting for him to win it out. But Hopkins was also a great kicker for us before he had that injury last year. Never forget the Denver Broncos game last year, the Dustin Hopkins legacy game that he single-handedly won for us. May the best man win. I think we'll do a fine job assessing each kicker, but like you mentioned, I think it was first day OTAs. They both looked very promising. I remember some past reports from some past OTAs where it was like, yeah, our kickers kicked about like 60% today, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
fucking fantastic. So, hey,
Yeah.
man, may the best man win. I think either guy is right for the job, and I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see who wins it.
Yeah, my thing with kickers is, especially on that level, I mean, they're all talented. They wouldn't be there if they weren't. They wouldn't be invited to a NFL training camp or off-season workout program if they weren't. I think so much of it nowadays, and it's just one of those careers. It's one of those jobs in professional sports that it just so much of it is confidence. So much of it. And once you lose that confidence, you start to see guys pulling and pushing kicks and just you see their percentages go down. You see them start to kind of lose that confidence on the field. And one thing that it really impressed about Cameron Dicker last year, I mean, his story was great. He was getting ready to go to a Carrie Underwood concert and got the call that he needed to be, at the Chargers facility within the next day or so. So got on a flight, missed the concert. It was a whole big thing. Awesome story. And he comes in and hits a game winner in his first game. So, uh, just that alone, I mean, it wasn't a game winner. Like you're right, it wasn't a 58, 59-yard game winner. Um, but just to even nail that kick and then the consistency that he provided. I mean, I don't really think we have to go back far to give other Charger fans a reminder how inconsistent our kicking game has been over the last decade. Really, I mean, since pretty much since Nate Kading left. Well, Nick Novak was a solid
Nick
piece for a
Novak
couple
was
of years.
quality.
He was quality. Even though he got caught pissing on the sideline, I was at that game as well. That was funny.
That's just funny though.
That was funny. Yeah, not funny because we lost that game, but I remember that was one of the
Was that
highlights of that game.
against the Broncos?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah. We don't have to talk about that game.
Yeah. So, but anyways, like this is the consistency that he brought because look, I mean, for the last couple of years, we've kind of had a rotation of kickers that have kind of come in and come out, and some of them came in and mainly just due to injury and provided a little bit of consistency, but we always kind of went back to the guy that we started the year with, or so I really respected the fact that the Chargers, even when Dustin Hopkins got healthy last season, didn't didn't shake things up. They didn't revert back to him automatically because he was the guy that started the season with us. They just went with the hot hand. They just kept going with Dicker, and all in all, I think he had a great rookie season. I mean, he missed a crucial kick in Jacksonville that it's easy to kind of look back on and be like, maybe that changes the game just ever so slightly, and we get out of there with a victory. But even then, I mean that loss has nothing to do with him. That has everything to do with the coaching, the offense, the defense. I mean, it was just a whole meltdown of a performance all around. So I don't like look at that and be like, oh, he should have made that kick and we should have won. Like there's so many other things that we could have done in that game to walk out of there with a victory, and we had the opportunities to do it time and time again. So, um, and I do remember a point before the I think the Denver Bronco game where Dustin Hopkins made, what was he, 4 for 4 with a bum hamstring. Um, I do think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I just want to get your honest take on this. Like, I think that skews Chargers fans' perspective a little bit on him because I do remember a time before that game where he wasn't the most consistent. He wasn't anything like he was never like a Cameron Dicker where you walked in and he didn't miss a kick for 6, 7 weeks, and you're just like, damn, like this is nice. Like this is nice to have this consistency. I don't have to be on the edge of my seat for a 42-yard field goal like that. That felt nice. But I mean, do you think I'm wrong, or do you kind of agree with the fact that, I mean, yes, it sucks that Hopkins had to go out that way, and he was a hero in that game. But before that, I mean, what was your like overall, um, like, what'd you think of him?
Perception of him, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if you're gonna go out that way, man. Go out on your fifth field goal of the day, making it 5 for 5 to win the game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was a big Dustin Hopkins fan. I shouldn't say big Dustin Hopkins fan, but I liked him a lot more than guys like Viz Cayeno or Young Oku or this whole. We've rostered as many kickers the last 10 years as Browns have
Like
had
Honey Badger.
quarterbacks in the last 30. Yeah, like dude, like I don't know. It feels like we finally got consistency out of Hopkins that I had literally missed as my pretty much whole life being a Chargers fan since guys like Novak or Kading, not in the playoffs, obviously.
Right.
But he gave us that kind of consistency that I feel like really just made us less nervous for kicks. And then I
Yeah.
think Dicker came in and did the same thing, especially kicks under 50. And people are going to use the argument towards the Jacksonville game, but that game was just a total shitstorm in the second half. To blame it on your rookie kicker, seriously?
Yeah.
Yes, if he makes that kick, that helps us win the game for sure, or at least helps us get to overtime. But we simply just lost that game because our defense could not get a stop, and Joe Lombardi had his head shoved up his scrotum in the second half.
Right. No.
So,
Yeah. I agree.
but yeah, I think Hopkins or Dicker are both very, very much cut out for the job. It's all just going to come down to Cam. Which one can clutch up? If it's going to be the veteran and Hopkins who has that experience, gets that edge over Dicker, or if the newbie Cameron Dicker comes in and balls out. I just best man for the job mentality for me, and I'm looking forward to see how they perform in camp.
Yeah, I agree. I think either way, they're in good hands. I personally am leaning Dicker the kicker, just because he came in and just had
He's Dicker the fucking kicker, dude.
yeah,
Like,
and
come on.
he left such a great impression on us fans year one, and yeah, I mean Hopkins was having a nice season until he got hurt, but I think uh, it speaks a lot about how the Chargers didn't go back to Hopkins throughout the year. And I think it is cool that they are, making this a battle. And I think it's going to help whatever kicker they end up going with. This battle is only going to help them. I think had they come into camp or into OTAs and been like, hey, let's we release Dustin Hopkins, or we're going with Dicker. We're not going to make it a competition. He's our guy. Sometimes it's better just to have things earned and not given, especially at this level of professional sports. And I think with the whole kicks beyond 50 thing, look, it's not like he can't kick the ball 55, 57 yards. He has that length. It's just the accuracy, and that's again, that's one of those things that I feel like the more comfortable you get, the more confidence you build on this level uh, of football. I think the more you're going to see those 53, 54 yarders go in. Because to me, it's never been a question of, 'cause some guys, they just don't have the leg to kick 40, 54, 55. It takes everything in them to have the distance. And then even then, it's like swinging out of your shoes with your driver just so you can maybe add on a few more yards to your drive, but you have no idea where it's going to go. It could end up, you know, in the highway across the street or three fairways over. You just never know, right? And I think that has never been the issue with Dicker the kicker. I think it's just repetition and confidence. And you said it, like he just didn't have a whole lot of kicks over 50 to begin with. Like how many? What was his sample size this entire
I
last year?
I
Maybe
really
two.
only think he kicked like 2 or 3 field goals
Yeah.
over like 49 yards.
Right. So I really believe, with more repetition and more confidence, I think that can definitely be improved. And I would not be surprised if he wins the battle and week one, week two, there's a early opportunity to go out there and swing one from 54, 55. Like, yeah, let him go out there. And if he misses it, dude, it's fucking week one. You should do other things in the game to give yourself a chance. But um, yeah, I'm genuinely excited about this battle. I'm kind of nervous about it just because I am on Dick the Kicker's side, so I would love to see him win this battle. But ultimately, I think it's gonna be best for the special teams unit and this team. For someone to go out there and just win it outright.
Either option is better than anything we've had in a long time. So I'm just going to be grateful for that.
Amen to that, man. Couple couple last minute things here before we wrap up and get out of here. Um, they're nothing huge. Actually, I think I just have one left, but a couple transactions that the Chargers have made in the last couple weeks since we haven't recorded. But Chargers sign wide receiver Darius Shepard, who is also a rookie, so he's an undrafted free agent. That should provide some return man competition for Darius Davis. So we got two Dariuses battling it out for potential return man status. And Chargers signed, but then have also waived linebacker Damon Lloyd in the time that we have not recorded. So just wanted to throw those in there. Nothing, again, not huge transactions, but some stuff that's also been on the news since we've last recorded. Any thoughts about Darius Shepard?
No, I've got none. I've got none. I'm sure you don't either.
Nothing, man. I could Google him and probably come up with something, but I ain't gonna do that. So,
Good for him. If he wants
um,
to become the next Austin Eckler in the receiver room, I mean,
there you go.
he's a bolt. I'm a root for him, but Colin, I don't
Right.
know shit about him, but I
Probably
will
not
root for
probably
him.
not making this roster, and I am genuinely excited for Darius Davis. I think he got lost a little bit in the draft hype of Quentin Johnson and a couple other picks on the defensive side of the ball, but Uh, dude, watching some of his tape, especially from the college football playoffs, like dude's got some afterburners and he's got some
He's a
wiggle
bit
to him.
fast. He is a bit fast. So
And just excited to see how they use a guy like. If I'm being honest, man, I don't know if I see. I mean, he'll probably make the roster just because they need to carry probably at least 5 receivers, maybe even 6. But
who, Darius Davis?
no, I'm talking about Jalen Guyton, man. I just
Oh,
the more, and I know he's coming off an ACL injury, so that never makes it any easier. But yeah, man, I mean, I just from what I've seen out of Darius Davis, obviously Quentin Johnson coming in, and then you have your big three that we've been accustomed to over the last couple of seasons, and Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Josh Palmer. Um, it's hard for me not to look at this receiving group and be like, yeah, Jalen Guyton's wide receiver 6. Personally, for me, he might be higher in other people's lists just because we really don't know what Darius Davis could be at this point. Um, but yeah, I mean that's healthy competition that we have not had in that wide receiver room for a couple seasons. So yeah, I'm just excited about that.
for sure. And Jalen Guyton gets cut, then Dicker gets number 15 back. So
There you go.
just
Yeah,
saying.
that is the reason why he got 15 last year. I forgot about that.
So
Good looks there. Well, man, that's all I have. You add before we get out of here?
no, man, I don't think I got much. Like we mentioned earlier, it's really kind of a downtime, just for football. Kind of, we get some league news every now and then, but really, Chargers pretty quiet off season, especially compared to last off season. And I don't really see that ramping up anytime soon. But who knows? A lot of surprise moves come out of the blue, and we'll be here to report
Yep.
them when they do. So
100%, man. There's always some quality vets that take their time to sign with the team. They go through the whole process, and you know, uh, we've seen big name vets sign as late as July and August. When some of these guys start to go down in training camp, and teams there's a need for guys at different positions. So yeah, but for now, this is all we got. So um, yeah, kind of quiet, but also just another week of OTAs, and then it's going to be really quiet. But once we're back and training camp starts, it's going to be no time before week 1's here. So good stuff, man. Well, thank you guys for tuning into another episode of Chargers Powder Hour. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media channels on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Our handle is at Powder Hour Pod LA. Follow along for all the latest news and updates about the podcast and, of course, about our bolts. And as always, don't forget to bolt up. Peace.